Hi, I'm Tony Poulos and I'm at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. I have with me today a very, very innovative company called TailF, and Carl Moberg, who is the VP of Technology, is going to let me know a little bit more about what they do. Carl, welcome, good to see you.
Thank you very much, Tony, good to be here.
Firstly, I'd like to know a little bit more about TailF and exactly what you do.
Let me tell you, we are a Swedish software company. We've been around since 2005. Our purpose in life is to improve the configuration management in general in the industry. And we've been doing that in two directions. We actually started out in engaging with the equipment provider space the first couple of years in the history of the company. So we've worked with all of the major equipment providers in helping them build better manageability for their network equipment. Since a couple of years ago, we also expanded into what we call service orchestration, with the emerging SDN wave that came out a couple of years ago, and now that people are trying to turn this into solutions around NFV. We have a fundamental piece of software that helps people abstract away networks, multi-vendor heterogeneous networks, and make them into something that their software and engineers can consume as a coherent asset.
Well, let's come back to the SDN part of the conversation.
Let's come
firstly.
back to that.
Everyone's talking about SDN, but what are the biggest challenges facing operators these days as they approach things like SDN and NFV?
So that's a good question. We've spent so many years in network management, and so first of all, we're very excited that people talk about it, and it's been a transformative couple of years, and the term itself, I think, is a victim of people's thinking about how to go about things. They came screaming out the gates out of Stanford from the Blank Slate project. Everybody knows that. It was tightly associated with the open flow protocol and a couple of high priests for a while, and then it ended up in the hands of some vendors and got extended. And I think it's really hard to pin down anything fundamental left in there. Let me actually pivot the question a bit and tell you this, is that when we talk to service providers, data centers, and large enterprises about these things, they kind of transition into talking about network automation these days. So I think there's a correlation between them. People started thinking about SDN, but nowadays it's more network abstraction and network automation. And I think the fundamental part of that is the ability, again, to talk to the network as if it were a coherent asset. Right? I think that's what they want to do. They want to program their networking assets, and they ascribe the word SDN to that.
Now, I know people always want to lump SDN and NFV, like software-defined networks and network function virtualization together, but they are separate entities, aren't they? Could you help us out with that?
I'll give you my take on it, and I'm sure you will talk to others about it. So the way I try and explain this is that SDN is a enabling technology or enabling pattern that you need as a small but significant part of NFV, right? NFV comes out of the assumption that you can virtualize your networking functions to some extent. And in order to stitch them together, in order to enable communication between these virtualized network functions, you need something like an SDN, right? You need SDN technologies to have them talk to each other in an orderly fashion. So it's an enabling technology or an enabling pattern or whatever you want to call it for NFV. NFV is much bigger, a bigger transformative thought. SDN is one part of what we need for NFV.
Carl, how do SDN and NFV level the playing field for new entrants that are coming in with software network applications and even the associated management platforms?
So what it really does and what excites us is that it takes away a couple of fundamental historical mistakes that we've done in the industry. It destroys or dissolves some of the lock-in that some of the equipment providers have had on the market for a good while by introducing layers of abstraction, right? It puts things into the places where they should be. It opens up interfaces between moving parts, and it standardizes the interactions between these moving parts. Very general, very loose. So let me tell you about one instance of it, right? Is the difference between the distinct or the identifiable parts of a network, the routers, the switches, the firewalls, right? And how to talk to them, right? The interface between the network elements themselves and the next layer up has never been well standardized or well understood. It's been a huge impediment for the industry because it actually has locked away or locked out inventions and ways of incrementally improving the OSS ordering chain for a long while. Now SDN, through its enabling thought patterns and NFV as a bigger systemic approach, opens up those interfaces. So it allows companies like ourselves, would you believe it, to actually play a very important part in moving things around a bit and opening up the agility that so many of the service providers are asking for, have been asking for.
Carl, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for explaining all that to me, and I'm sure our audience will be happy as well with that. Thanks again.
Thank you very much.